Hi, everyone. We're live. I'm just going to wait for a few people to trickle in, hopefully, and then we'll get started. This is always the really awkward part where we're just waiting for people to come. So let me just get started for a little bit, a minute or so, and we'll see who hops on. If not, if no one comes on, then I'll just keep talking. There's 2 people. Good. So some people are watching. All right, guys. So I'll just go ahead and get started and sort of introduce myself, tell you guys who I am and what I do and what we're going to talk about today. My name is Brittany Werner, and I'm one of the WAG coaches, WAG nutrition coaches. I've done a Facebook Live before, but it's been almost a year ago, and I did one. Oh, hi, Christina. Yay. I did one on healthy eating with a family, and that was almost a year ago. So I'm excited to be doing another one here today. So like I said, my name's Brittany Werner. I'm one of the WAG coaches, nutrition coaches. My background, I have a bachelor's degree in nutrition and dietetics, a master's degree in human nutrition and metabolism. I'm a registered dietitian, and before coming to WAG, I worked for about 11 years in the bariatric field and another 5 years in clinical nutrition. So nutrition's my thing. It's always been my thing. So I'm really happy. I mean, WAG is amazing. It's an amazing place for me, and I'm just really excited to be able to do these kind of things with you guys and do these Q&As. So enough about me. I asked you guys in the group last week to give me some ideas, some questions. I know a lot of things have been talked about in the group, so I was just curious if there was anything that maybe you guys wanted to know that you maybe were afraid to ask in a group and you wanted just to maybe send me a private message. So I'm going to give you sort of the rundown of what we're going to talk about today, and that way if you're just tuning in, you know what's going to come for the rest of what we'll chat about. So these are the questions that were asked, and we're going to talk about cravings, how to handle those, traveling, especially when you're traveling abroad, how to plan for eating away from home, weekend tips, how do I handle working from home, balancing that with my kitchen being right downstairs all day, flexible dieting, and if it fits your macros, what's the difference between those two? We'll talk about that. And then lastly, we're going to talk about the scale, everyone's favorite topic. But we'll talk about the scale, how to deal with it, what it means, what it doesn't mean. Yeah, so that's what we're going to talk about. Hi, Katie. Oh, I have my people are coming. This is great. So first, let's talk about cravings. The question I think came up with, how do I say no when I have these cravings for specific food or whatever? Unfortunately, there isn't just a blanket answer where we can say, hey, if you have a craving, do X, Y, a craving for peanut butter, then do this. You have a craving for pizza, do that. There's a few schools of thought. One of the best books I ever read was called Slim by Design. I have a copy here for you guys. This book is amazing. And one of the very first things that it says that just really struck me, it says, the solution to mindless eating is not mindful eating. Our lives are just too crazy and our willpower is too wimpy. And I think that at least for me and most of the people I've ever worked with, our willpowers are not super strong. We have to set our lives up in a way that supports how we want to live, okay? If you set your life up with temptation everywhere, then you're going to fall to that temptation. Most of us are not strong enough to continually keep saying no over and over and over. So what this book does, again, Slim by Design, I'll put the link in the notes when we're finished. What this book basically does is go through and just give you tips on how to set your life up that way. Some of it's common sense and things that you can do on your own, right? Don't have things setting out on your counter that are going to tempt you. Keep things out of your vision. When you open the refrigerator, you want to see healthy food in front of you, not junk, things like that. But as far as like if you have a specific craving for something, one other quote in this book I wanted to read to you, and it says that most of our cravings, including those when we shop, because this specific craving was talking about when we're going grocery shopping, are largely mental. Very, very rarely is there a case where you have a craving and it's your body actually physically wanting that food. That happens sometimes with diabetics and they have low blood sugar. Sometimes for females during a menstrual cycle, we crave certain foods with magnesium in them. Unfortunately, most of us aren't craving those type of things. We're talking about maybe foods that don't fit into our macros that we crave. And it's a lot about breaking that down and telling yourself, this is a mental, not a physical craving. And it just takes time. It takes time for you to back yourself away from it. It also really works for most people not to completely abstain from those types of foods. The vast majority of people can be lumped into two categories. Most of us are either abstainers or moderators. So say if your craving is pizza, a moderator could, put into MyFitnessPal the pizza they're eating, select the exact portion that they're going to eat it, feel satisfied, feel great, all is said and done. That's a moderator. If you're an abstainer, then what happens, and I'm an abstainer, so I can say this pretty confidently, what happens is you have that piece of pizza, you eat that, and then the floodgates have opened. And suddenly you want all the pizza. So that's something you need to sort of learn about yourself if you don't know already. Hi, Lisa. Yay, people are here. If you don't know that about yourself already, it's good to sort of kind of have an inside look and think, okay, am I a moderator? Am I abstainer? How can I work through this? And if you are an abstainer and it's something like chocolate or something that is easily avoidable, you're better off to stay completely away from it. Now, I would never tell someone if pizza is your thing that you're going to stay away from pizza every day for the rest of your life. That's not realistic. But it goes back to, again, the Slim by Design book, talking about setting your life up so that you're not around it all the time and really making it a special occasion thing. I hope that sort of answers your question. It's hard to make it super, there's a lot of people in the group, so I don't want to be super specific, and I want it to be able to touch on kind of everyone. All right, let's talk about travel and traveling abroad. So this question was asked, and it's a really good one for me, I think, because some of you, those of you guys who are my clients know this. I'm American. I'm from Southern Ohio, but my husband is active duty Army, U.S. Army, and we're currently stationed in Germany. That's why it's almost nighttime here where we are. So I've lived overseas for a really long time. I've lived in Belgium for 4 years, in Bosnia and Herzegovina for 2 years, and now in Germany. And it's not easy sometimes to balance the food. I remember being in Bosnia and seeing everyone posting about having low-fat dairy. Man, I would have tackled someone for some low-fat cottage cheese when I lived in Bosnia, but it just didn't exist. If you're just traveling to a place, it's a lot easier. When you're traveling, first let's talk about just traveling abroad, because that's what the specific question was. And then I'm going to give some examples about traveling in general. So when we're just talking about traveling abroad, the big thing is for you to bring those staple items with you. If there are things that you really love that are unique, like RX bars or specific protein powder, or those type of things that you really use to fill in your macros really specifically, you have to bring those with you, because chances are you're not going to find them, and you're not going to even find anything that comes close somewhere else. For example, in the European Union, and those of you guys who reside in the European Union know this, there are a lot more food regulations here. Most of them are excellent regulations that I wish we had in the US, but there are a lot more food regulations, which makes it more difficult to get a lot of those specialty items, or it makes it cost prohibitive. So when you're traveling abroad, bring all of those things with you. Bring your protein powder, every bar that you like, every non-perishable snack that you like, bring it with you. Now, the very positive side, I can attest to traveling in Europe and traveling in South America. So that's a small portion of the globe, but we can talk about that. Typically, the food is so fresh. When you're talking about whole foods, meats, vegetables, fruits, they're super fresh, and you don't have to stress so much about that. Your whole foods are the same everywhere, right? Broccoli is the same all around the world. Cuts of meat, for the most part, are the same all around the world. What's really cool about in Europe a lot of times is on the menu, it will say 200 grams of chicken breast, 50 grams of whatever. Like on the menu, it lists out the sizes, which is so helpful. So traveling abroad, I think, sounds super scary. Now, if you're going somewhere super remote, that's a totally different story. But we're talking, I can attest to traveling in Europe, traveling to first world countries. It's typically a-okay. Now, one of the questions that was also asked was about travel in general, because it's summer, so we're going to be traveling more. How do you handle it? How do you handle the balance of wanting to have fun and relax versus not wanting to lose your progress? And first off, go to the WAG website, search the blogs. There are tons of excellent blog posts that talk about travel tips. There's so much that I can never go into all of it here. I'll be talking all evening. So make sure you go there and check out some of the tips. I'm going to kind of give you the rundown of when I have clients, or even myself, when I travel, how I approach the options. Basically, I see it as you have three choices when you're traveling. And it depends on a lot of factors, but here's what I perceive as the three choices. One, you keep going as you are. You continue to log and track everything super diligently. You bring your scale, you bring everything with you, and you continue on just like you're at home. That's option one. Option two is where you're going to continue to log and track and use MyFitnessPal, but you're going to estimate when you need to. This probably means maybe if you're staying in like an Airbnb or a condo, you have a food scale there, but you're not taking it out to eat with you. Or maybe you don't have a food scale at all and you're simply estimating. That's option two. Option three is just to completely go intuitive and just do intuitive eating. Listening to your body, making sure you're getting protein at every meal, making sure your plate is balanced. And there's a lot of great resources that WAG has about how to build a healthy plate, what that should look like. Which one of these options you choose, or mixture of the two, depend on a lot of factors. Depend on your goals. If you are a high-level athlete or you need to make weight for an event, I don't want you to be intuitive eating on vacation. We're not ready for that. If you have a competition coming up, right? If you're someone who you're at maintenance or you're close to maintenance and you want to give it a try, intuitive eating is great. Give it a try with your coach. This is what you and your coach can talk about and make a plan for this. What I want to completely sort of let everyone know is when you're traveling, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. What I like to tell people is you have to put the week in context, right? Your week of travel probably is not going to be your best week ever. You're likely not going to come home and be 5 pounds lighter. You're likely not going to hit your macros every single day because there's going to be a lot of estimation. But when you put it in context and you think, okay, what would this week have been like a year ago compared to what I was able to do now with me being mindful of my choices, that's when you realize, okay, we're making steps in the right direction. So the number one advice is talk to your coach. Talk to your coach. Make a plan. Make a plan before you go. Please don't just say, hey, I'm going to Mexico tomorrow. What should I do? Give him or her some heads up. So that way you guys can make a plan on it together. For most people, I don't think option one is the best way to go. I think most of us will not be able to relax if we're tracking every single thing. But again, that's up to your personality. I also have clients who I know really enjoy having that accountability and want to track every single thing. So the main thing I just want to tell you is it's possible. It's absolutely possible to travel and stay and continue to make progress. You just have to kind of be a little relaxed with yourself and know, okay, I'm probably not going to hit PRs here while I'm traveling, or I'm probably not going to see a huge drop in the scale, but you can definitely make progress, maintain, or even lose a little bit of weight if that's your goal while you're on vacation. It's totally doable. Oh, also, I just wanted to put a note in here. I wrote it down on my paper that now, even just in the past year, I've noticed this. MyFitnessPal, which I know is the tracker most of us use, has got a ton of restaurants and even specific food items for Europe. It has just blown up in the past year. Now I can type in like I told you guys, I'm in Germany now. I can type in most chain German restaurants, or at least popular foods that are here and come up with an entry in MyFitnessPal, and that wasn't the case just a few years ago. So that's good news. Okay, a few more things. Those of you guys who are just tuning in, we're doing some Q&A of questions that I got from the group earlier. We've already talked about traveling, talking about food cravings. Now I'm going to talk about how to plan for being away from the house all day, and then some tips for working from home, and then also the scale, which is everyone's favorite topic. So when someone had posted a question that they are going to be away from their house all day at like an 8-hour conference or something, and how to tackle that. Ideally, I want you can bring everything you need to eat with you. That is the easiest, most fail-proof way to do it, is to get a cooler and pack it all with you. Those of you guys who are moms, I have 3 girls, and I think for me this is just normal because I'm so used to lugging around snacks for everybody that for me I just throw my food in there too, and it works. If you're going to be out of the house for 8 hours, you for sure need to at least have enough for a solid meal plus 2 snacks. If you don't want to bring the meal part with you, maybe at least you need to bring the snacks. If you leave the house for 8 hours without any plan in the world of where you're going to get your food, you're going to make some bad choices, almost certainly, unless your conference happens to be upstairs from a Whole Foods or somewhere where it's super convenient to get food. Most of us, that's not the case. There's going to be desserts and food at these conferences or wherever you're going to be for a whole day. You need to bring your food with you. That's just my number one. Bring as much with you as you can. And plan your day out ahead of time. That also really helps. That way you're not, the flip side is if you don't eat anything all day, then you get home and you're starving at the end of the night and you can't get everything in. You're trying to choke down 100 grams of protein at 9 o'clock at night. No one wants to do that either. So really bring stuff with you. Just a few questions here about working from home and how to balance that with food. For me, I spend probably half of my work time. I work here at the house, and the other half I'll go out to like a coffee shop or go somewhere else. That's not necessarily because of food. That's just because I want to get out of my house. I purposely do not work near the kitchen. There for a while, because it's nice and sunny in my dining room area, I would work down there. But I did notice that I would get up to sort of stretch in between some check-ins, and I would find myself in the kitchen wandering around. So I stopped that. Now, if I work from home, I am in an office upstairs, away from the food. If I get up and sort of pace around, because I have a standing desk as well. So if I get up and move around, I'm not going to wander into the kitchen. It's a conscious effort to go down the stairs, through the hall, and get there. So my advice, which there's also a whole chapter in Slim by Design, this book that I was telling you about earlier. There's a whole chapter in there about your workplace and setting it up. And a lot of their stuff can be found online as well if you Google the book. But it's about proximity to me. It's sort of an out of sight, out of mind thing. Some people might be fine working at their kitchen table and it doesn't bother them at all. But for me, it's a little too tempting personally. So 2 more topics here. Holy moly, I've already talked for a long time. Okay, good. So 2 more topics, and they're big ones. The one question someone asked was basically saying, how do you balance this if it fits your macros lifestyle and flexible dieting with wanting to eat healthy whole foods? And what I think she was basically getting at was saying, you see the hashtag, if it fits your macros, and people are eating donuts, and it has just a really kind of negative connotation, because all that we ever see are people typically posting their fun foods. No one's taking pictures of, their tuna and broccoli and saying, if it fits your macros, even though they're likely also eating that stuff. It doesn't make for great social media posts, right? So they're not posting that. What I think it's important to understand is if it fits your macros and flexible dieting are 2 different things. They're not the same. When someone just says, well, I'm going to do if it fits your macros, for me, what I perceive that to believe is this is someone who's going to eat whatever they want as long as it fits the macros. WAG likes to take a more holistic approach and say, okay, yeah, you choose your foods. However, it's important that you're getting most of your food coming from whole foods. And that's why we track fiber. That is the big time reason why fiber is so important. Because if you're eating junk all day long, that fiber is going to be low. But if you're eating fruits and vegetables, you're eating whole grains, you're eating a well-balanced diet, you're not going to have any problem getting that fiber in. So that's the difference. That's the big reason why we'll track fiber. Fiber's not a macro, but we will track it to ensure that you're, getting a balanced diet. And a lot of this was, now we can see your logs. Those are synced on Seismic, which is a game changer. But before, we couldn't see exactly what you were eating. So that fiber really told us the story. When someone first starts WAG, some of you guys are watching this might be new. If you're brand new to dieting, maybe you've never counted macros before, or you've never done anything like this before, I sort of like to take that if it fits your macro approach, because we just want to establish some consistency, and I want to get you started tracking. I'm not worried so much about exactly what you're eating, but I want to get your macros consistent. And when we do that, then I'm going to focus on, okay, hey, we have a lot of refined sugar. Can we start to kind of bring that down? Could we put some more healthy carbs in there instead? So, WAG is very much individualized, and it's not a blanket statement that no one is doing this or no one is doing that. If you're brand new and you've never, really tweaked with your diet or paid close attention before, I will sort of start you on, let's work with the numbers first, and then we'll fine tune the food choices down the road. That's a big reason. Well, one of the big reasons why the commitment is 12 weeks in the beginning, because it takes time. It takes time to figure all of that out. My overlying statement with this is that you never want to be too restrictive with your diet if you don't have to be. If you don't have an allergy or some medical reason to be avoiding a certain food group or a certain type of food, in the long run, it's not beneficial for you to be overly restrictive. Study after study after study has shown that people who do severely restrictive diets rebound and rebound plus some. Maybe they rebound and gain all of their weight back, or maybe they start binging on those foods again, or those bad habits start to creep back in. The main thing is that it's just not sustainable. Abstaining completely from a food item is typically not sustainable for most people. Again, this is a big reason, WAG is highly individualized, so you'll want to talk to your coach, have that open line of communication, tell them, hey, I really like X, Y, and Z food. How can you help me put that into my plan? So I hope that helps and makes it a little easier. The last thing I want to talk about tonight, guys. Okay, so the last one I want to talk about is the scale. I have seen a lot of chatter lately about the scale, and on our Facebook group about the scale, and being upset because the scale goes up 0.2 of a pound and then down 1/10 of a pound and then up 1/2 a pound, and it being really stressful for people. WAG's CEO and founder, did an excellent Facebook Live maybe 9 months ago or so called Beauty and the Scale. If you search in the Facebook group, you'll find it, or if you search on the WAG YouTube page, you can find it. And a big part of what she talks about there is that we actually have very little control over the scale. You think that you have control because you're monitoring everything that you put in and and what type of exercise is being put out, but really we have very little control over what's happening there. There are so many systems at play when it comes to your weight, that it's your hormones, it's your hydration, it's your bowel movements, it is the amount of activity you're putting in, it's the type of foods you're eating, your sodium intake, lots and lots and lots of things. And you just cannot, it's impossible to have purely linear weight loss. It does not happen, okay? I think especially as women, have for a lot of time it's been beat into our heads that number on the scale really matters, and that number equates something, and It doesn't. All it is a biometric measure. It is no different than your blood pressure, your blood sugar, your temperature. It's just a value of how your body is functioning. You know, if you take your temperature every morning and one morning it's up 2/10, of a degree, you do not panic and run to the hospital and think that you're dying, right? It's the same with your weight. If it's up 2/10 of a pound one morning, don't panic and think that you've lost all progress and something horrible is happening. It's like you note it, you log it, and you move on. And we're looking for trends. That's why that weighing every day is so important. That way I can look, or us as coaches can look at the trends and see what's happening over time. Most females, if you're a very small stature female, most of us will sort of, I'm not a small stature female. I'm 5'10". I'm a larger stature female, but most smaller females will range their body weight. If you can keep it within a 3 to 5 pound range, then that's stable. For someone like me, I'm 5'10", like I said, I sort of have about a 6 or 7 pound range. And I know my top end. And when I get there, I'm like, ooh, it's time to we got to really watch what's happening here. Or I really have to think, what did I eat? What's going on here? So please don't expect to have linear weight loss. If you expect that, I'm 150 this morning, tomorrow I'm going to be 149.8, and the day after that, 149.6, you're setting yourself up for failure because our bodies simply do not work that way. What I can tell you is that over time, the trend, your weight will go down. But just in that linear fashion, it doesn't happen. And it's just to keep in mind that that number on the scale means nothing. It doesn't mean that you did a really great job one day or a really horrible job the other day. Some of my clients, I told you this, I have days where I'll hit my macros bang on, like I'm on point, and I'll have a really killer workout. I feel great. Things are good. I feel lighter. And the next morning I'm up 3 pounds. And you're like, I'm putting in all of this effort and I gained 3 pounds. You have to know that it's your body. It's just that my body was inflamed from the workout, right? Likely. Maybe I had some higher sodium food. Maybe I hadn't gone to the bathroom. Maybe I was a little dehydrated because I had such a strenuous workout and I didn't drink enough water. Maybe I'm mid-cycle and my progesterone is up, causing me to retain some water. So many things that just as a snapshot, you can't look at that number and let it dictate how you feel or let it dictate the effort that you put in. So there's a saying that, that's been around WAG for a long time, and some of you guys have heard it. You should decide how you feel about yourself before you stand on that scale. In the morning, wake up and go, I know I killed it yesterday. I was on it. I did everything right. So no matter what this scale says, I know that I killed it yesterday. So maybe you didn't do so great the day before. So you get on the scale knowing, okay, yesterday wasn't my best day, but I know today's going to be great. That's how you have to approach it. That number on the scale doesn't equate success. And I really would encourage a lot of you, especially women who are looking to gain muscle, or you're a weightlifter or a CrossFitter, to look up some profiles of some popular CrossFit Games athletes and see how much they weigh. I think it's pretty shocking. There's a lot of people will say, hey, I'm trying to be competitive in CrossFit, and they weigh 125 pounds. And, then they step back and realize, wow, that some of these really high level female athletes that are 5'2" weigh 140, 150 pounds. And they need that to support their sport. And so the scale and health don't always collide the way we want them to, if that makes sense. So I think that's everything I was going to talk about. I've talked for 30 minutes, which is a lot longer than I thought I was going to. Oh, hi everyone. That's so nice that so many people say hi. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. I hope I didn't ramble too much. it will be on the WAG YouTube page. They're going to load it up there. I'm going to put the link to this Live by Design book that I talked about in the comments. And that's it. So, thanks. I hope you guys have a great rest of your Friday. Enjoy WAG Unplugged tomorrow. For all of you moms out there, happy Mother's Day weekend. I hope your family does something fantastic for you. And this was so fun. So thank you guys so much for listening, and see you guys next time, okay? Bye.